Hi, it's Jordan Teen 1, and in this video I'm going to show you how to install a zipper to a pencil pouch or really to any rainbow loom project that you'd like to add a zipper to. And you can see here I've installed it on this one. I have a black invisible zipper here on this pouch, and then this is the one I'm going to be showing you how to add the zipper to. The items that I'll be using to add my zipper are the zipper itself, of course, and I have a 10-inch metal zipper here. You can really use any kind you'd like. As far as cutting the zipper, metal is a little bit tougher to cut through than, say, if you have a plastic zipper, but it's totally your choice. And then I have a needle and thread because once we cut the zipper to the length we want, you're going to have to sew a zipper stop, but that's really easy to do. I have a seam ripper that I'm going to be using to poke the holes in the fabric of the zipper in order to get the bands through. But if you don't have a seam ripper, you can really use any kind of a pointed, sharp object, but you want it to be big enough that it's going to leave a big enough hole that the band is going to fit through. And then what I'm going to be using to pull the bands through are, you have a couple choices here. There's a tool called a knit picker that I will show you. That's just looks like a tiny little latch hook. I don't know if you can see that or not. And I actually read about this online from a website called the Tech Knitting Blogspot, and they showed how to use that. So this is a handy little tool. I actually had never even heard of one before, and I went to my local craft store and I picked it up for $1.99, so it's pretty inexpensive. And what else you can use is just a very small crochet hook with just a little tiny end. So this is a 1.9 millimeter. I have a ruler to measure out where I'm going to put the bands so they're evenly spaced. And then I have a piece of chalk that I'm going to use to mark the zipper with. And then you're also going to need a pair of scissors. The first thing that I'm going to do is measure my zipper to see where I need to cut it. So on the end you're going to have this extra piece that I'm just going to leave on. And then I'm going to go inside of my pouch here and fold that under and put this up against where the zipper would actually be. And then I'm just going to lay it out here. And then I want to see where I want the zipper to end, where I'm going to sew this stop. So let me just get my chalk here. And I probably want it to be somewhere right around here. It's not going to go all the way to the very edge. So maybe right around here. So I'm just going to flip that to the other side and make a little mark with the chalk. And then I actually want to cut it a little bit longer than that. Let me just make sure I'm up against here. And then I like where I did my mark. That looks good. And I'm going to actually cut it a little bit farther than that. So let me see. I'll go to maybe about here, an extra like ½ an inch or so, and make a mark where I'm going to cut it. Now when you're cutting your zipper, you want to make sure that you're using scissors that you don't really care that much about, because the teeth may damage the scissors, especially if you're working with metal teeth. It's going to be harder to cut. So just make sure that you're using an old pair of scissors. And I want to cut where I made my second blue line. The next thing I need to do is sew a new zipper stop, since we cut the old one off when we shortened it. So I'm going to turn it over here and I'm going to sew where I made my blue line here. So there is another blue line on here that I made an error, so just ignore that. So what I'm going to do is take a needle and thread. I made a little knot at the end, and as close as I can get to the zipper, I'm just going to go in one side and then come back out the other side. Doing this from the underneath. And then I'm just going to go over the top and repeat that again. So I'm going in on the side closest to me and then coming back out on the other side. So I'm always doing this same motion. And I'm going to do this maybe about 5 or 6 times, just till you feel like you have a good foundation there worked up. And I'm trying to get them pretty much on top of one another as best as I can here. So you can see how it looks on the other side. Let me just do this one more time. Oops, got hung up on the edge there. And then I'm just going to tie this off. I'll just take my needle and go under some of the threads. And then with the loop here, I'm just going to take my needle and pull back through to make a knot. I'll do that a couple of times. So I'm just going under some of the thread, pulling it and keeping this loop open, and then just pulling back through the loop to make that knot. And then you're just going to cut this off. And then if you want, you can test it out. Open your zipper, and when it hits this thread, it's just going to stop there. The next thing I need to do is measure out where I want to put the rubber bands. And so when I did my first one here, I put one every centimeter. That's how I measured it out. And I think they need to be a little bit closer together, but it works out fine this way. But I think for this one I'm going to do them closer. So I've decided I'm going to do 4 for every inch. So I'm going to start the first one right around where the zipper starts, because this end part here is again going to be tucked inside, so you're not going to see that. So I'll just start here, and I'm marking this on the back so we won't see it when the project's finished. So I'm just going to take my chalk here and I'm going to make a little mark. I think I'm going to have to put this a little bit away here. I'm going to do 1 for about every 1/4 of an inch. Now I can move it closer. It would actually be a little bit better if I had a fine tip piece of chalk. This is not always marking where I think it's going to mark. When I did my black zipper, I had some tailor's chalk, which had a nice fine edge to it, and I was able to work better with that. But for this one, I just have my kids' chalk, because the white tailor's chalk obviously wouldn't show up on a white zipper. So these might not be exact. I'm trying to get them pretty close. Let me just move down here to the end. And it's going to stop here. So this part's going to be tucked under, so you're not going to need to have stitches there either. So I think I'll stop here at the 7.5 mark. And then what you're going to need to do is repeat that on the other side here. So I'm going to just let you do that on your own so you can pause and repeat that process. I'm ready to make the holes in my zipper here, and I have 27 lines on each side, so I need 27 bands for each. So I have them counted out in piles. And as I said earlier, you can really use any kind of sharp object. I'm going to be using the seam ripper, but if you had like an awl, or you could use a hammer and nails, you could use anything, a needle if it was thick enough. It just has to make a big enough hole that you're going to be able to fit your band through. And so you want to place the hole about midway between the zipper and the edge. So I'm going to try and keep it even here. So I'm just going to go to the first one here, and I'm going to stick my seam ripper through, and I'm just going to wiggle it around a little bit to make a little bit of a larger hole. And you could do all the holes first if you wanted to, or you could just do them one at a time. I think what I will do is just make the holes first. When I was doing the black one, I actually just did them one at a time because once I made the hole, it was really hard to see where I had made it since it was black. But for this one, it seems to be that I'll be able to see where it is since it's white. Just make sure that these are big enough. And that line there was a mistake right there, so I'm ignoring that. So I'm just going to go all the way down here. And that's my last one on this side. So I'm going to just repeat this on the other side, so you can pause and do that now. Now once you have your holes made, you're ready to pull your bands through. So as I had said earlier, you can use this nice little tool called a knit picker, and let me just show you how you would use that. You would open up the little latch hook part, find where your hole is, and you want to push it down through, grab your band, and then close the little latch so it locks it in place, and then you would just pull through. If you have just a needle, a knitting needle, what you would do is go down through the hole, grab your band, get it on the hook, and then just pull it up through. So whatever method you prefer, you can use. So I'm just going to stick with the needle here for now. And it helps when you're pulling it up if you put some tension on the band. Otherwise it tends to want to slip off. And I would pull them up about halfway. So it does tend to want to slip off at times. Like I said, if you just keep tension on that band, it definitely helps. So as you're going here, you're going to have all of these bands just sort of hanging out here. It's going to look kind of funky, and sometimes they want to tangle with each other. So I am just going to fast forward here and let you finish this process. show you this last one here. So I'm just going to do that all the way down the one side and then all the way back up the other. Now I finished putting all of my rubber bands through my zipper, and I would like to point out that I did add one extra band on the left side here where the zipper starts. I just thought it needed that extra band attached. So now I'm going to just take it and put it inside and fold that over. And then let me turn it this way and move a little bit closer. And what I'm going to be doing is going through one of the stitches. So I'm not going to go through the very end. I'll be starting on the second stitch in. And let me just get this back in place here. So I want to grab the underside of the loop and pull it through the stitch. So it's going through both loops of my stitch, and then I'm grabbing the upper side and I'm going to pull that through the underside. And I'm just going to keep working my way down. I should have just about one band for every stitch. So I'm going through the next stitch, grabbing the underside of the loop, pulling it through, and then grabbing the upper side and pulling that through the two that are on my hook. And then again I'll move down to the next one. The underside comes through the stitch, get the upper side on, you have the 3 loops, and then the one pulls through the other 2. So I'm just going to do that the whole way down here. So again, I'm going to go through the stitch, grab the bottom of the loop and pull that through the stitch, grab the top, and that pulls through the 2 on your hook. And also when you're doing this, I would say you can sort of try and keep that edge underneath. So this comes through, grabbing the top and pulling that through. So you can see how it's starting to attach here. So I'm coming down to the next stitch. And sometimes the loops do kind of go over one another, so just be careful that you're grabbing the correct loop, that it's the other side of the one that you already put on, because they can get intertwined with one another very easily. So really this is all there is to it. You're just attaching every one here. And again, I can see this edge wanting to sort of poke out. I do want to keep that sort of folded under the best that I can. So let me just tell you an interesting fact about the zipper that I'm using. It's actually quite old, and I'm sure it's older than I am. My aunt, my great aunt actually, was a very crafty woman, and she did a lot of knitting and crocheting and sewing. And so when she passed away several years ago, I inherited all of her craft items. And so she had a bunch of zippers, which I pulled this zipper and the other zipper I used from my other pouch from. And it's funny and very interesting to see where she bought them from and how much they cost. I can show you the package that this zipper came in. It was made by Serval, and they're no longer in business. You can see the dress that the woman's wearing. And then if you look on the other side here, you can see that it cost 10 cents. And she actually didn't even pay 10 cents. If you look at the sticker, it says Arlen's Department Store, which I looked that up, and that went out of business in 1973. She actually paid 7 cents. So I find it very interesting to find that information out, and it's kind of neat to think that all these years later that I'm utilizing things that she had bought long before I was even born. So I'm just going to continue on down this side doing the same process, and when I get to the end I will show you what to do next. So you can just pause your video and continue the rest of this side. Now I'm down to the end and I have just one band left to do on this side, and I would like to point out that I did add another set of bands here on the very end. You can see here's where my zipper stop is that I added, so I did go one past that. So again, I'm just going through this next stitch. It's kind of tight here, and I'm going to grab the underneath band, pull it through the stitch, and then grab the upper band and pull through both. And now the very end of this zipper is going to wind up hiding inside of here. So let me just tuck that down in, and then I'm going to go through the next stitch, and there's not going to be any zipper through this. I'm going to take another white band, come through. I'm going to come through both of those, and I'm going to make a really nice tight slip knot. And then I'm going to have to hide this, so I'm just going to go inside here, move that zipper out of the way, and I'll just go through some of these bands inside and get this loop to just tuck down inside so you won't notice it. And then I'm going to come around to the other side here, and you can see I do have a loose band from sewing my edges together that this clip is around, so I do want to incorporate that. So let me just get my hook through that so I can take off the clip. And now I'm just going to work up this other side the same as usual. Same thing we did on the opposite side here. So I'm going to tuck that zipper down in. And let me just take another white band here, since where I'm going to start sewing this isn't going to be till another stitch over, and I don't want to stretch this so far. So I'm just going to go through this next stitch and do another single crochet so I can incorporate this loose band into there. And then I'm just going to go to this next stitch over, and from the outside I'm going in, and then I need to find that first band. I'm going to grab the bottom, and you can see that my edge is fraying here a little bit, but I'm not really worried about that. It's going to be tucked in. So again, I'm just going to pull this through and then find the other end of it, and so it's actually all the way up here. Go through that, slide one in through the other two, and I want this to be tucked down in. In retrospect, now that I see it together, I think I could have cut my zipper even just a little bit longer than what it is, and I do see a little red band poking out, but I can fix that later. So now I'm just going to work my way up here one stitch at a time. So just same old pattern, going in, grabbing the underneath and pulling it through the stitch, grabbing the top of that loop, and it goes through the other two on your hook. And the only thing that I'm going to say to watch out for when you're doing this is the same as on the other side. I just want to try and keep the edge of this tucked down as best as I can. I know when you go through here and then you pull from the underside. You're making that cloth from the zipper want to come out, but I just want to try and keep it so it's not seen from the top. And then pull through both. So I'm just going to let you finish this on your own, and when it gets to the other end I will show you how to finish it off. Now I'm down to my last 3 loops here, and what I'm going to do is take this zipper and open it up just so I can see what I'm doing. So I'm going through my next stitch, grabbing the underside of the loop, and then again I'm going to try and tuck this in a little bit, grab the top and pull through. Moving on to the next one. And then I have one more left. And then we have these flaps sticking out from the end of the zipper, so I'm just going to tuck those inside. And then I'm going to take an additional white band here, go up to the next stitch, do a single crochet, and then I'm going to go down through some at the very end, take another white band, and make a nice tight slip knot just to tie this all off. And then I'll look from the inside here. Of course these are going to pop back out now, but that's alright. Just going to draw this band inside here, this loop, and then if you want you can pull it down through some of the other inside bands. Let me just tuck these right back in, and I can zip this closed. And sometimes the zipper is a little bit wavy, or it doesn't want to lay completely flat. I know with mine it looks like it wants to buckle right here because it was folded in the package that way, so you can imagine how many years it was stuck in that position, so kind of wants to pop up there. And also I said how you could see this red band at the end, and I don't want that showing through, so just use my hook and pull that down through and hide it. And you can sort of push the zipper down in a little bit and pinch this closed if you want it sort of hidden. So I think it works out pretty nicely. I hope that everyone loves their new pencil cases, or whatever project you made that you added a zipper to. You can always leave me comments on YouTube and Facebook, post pictures of your creations to my Facebook page, and please feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel so you can stay up to date on my latest tutorials. You can also find me on Pinterest and Instagram, so please feel free to subscribe to those as well. Thanks for watching!